Hey y'all, it's Kimmy Searches. Today we are going to do part 2 of my childhood favorites. So in my previous video we talked about several of the books that I loved as a kid and what I remembered about them, which was not much at all. So today I'm going to be doing like a full review of the first 3 that I talked about, and I'm not at home so I don't have them with me, so I'll just put a picture up or something. But anyway, the first one was The Lost Flower Children by Janet Taylor Liesel, or Leal, I don't know how to say that, sorry. This book, I remembered the imagery of the garden and a tea party, which is the part that I liked now. The rest of it was kind of not very memorable to me, and I understand why now. This book is about 2 little girls named Olivia and Nellie who are sent to go live with their great aunt Minty one summer. They're not excited about this, they hate this idea, until they find out that there's an enchantment in Aunt Minty's garden. A long time ago, a bunch of little kids liked to play there, and these evil little pixie creatures who hate happiness or something put a curse on the children except for one girl. The other children were turned into flowers, and they were having a tea party, and their tea set was hidden throughout the garden. And if the one little girl couldn't find the 8 teacups and teapot, then they would remain as flowers. So the little girl never found all of them. All these years later, Olivia and Nellie are playing in the garden when they find one, and they become obsessed, and they try to find all the rest of them. And I won't say much more about the plot because I'd like for you to, not have spoilers if you're going to read it. I see why I only remembered the flowers and the teacups, because that's the part that I wanted to have more of. Now I gave it 2.5 stars, and I'll tell you why. The details and the imagery are fantastic. The magic kind of stops with the enchantment. There's not really much magic in the rest of the book, even though I went into it assuming it was going to be like a fairy tale, like a modern fairy tale. But it's kind of not. It's left really open-ended to where there could be magic involved or there could not be. And I don't really like that. I would rather it have been a fairy tale. That's what I wanted to read, and that's not what it was. So if you're looking for like a case open, case closed fairy tale, this is what happens and this is how the curse is broken, I don't think you'll like this book. But if you really like open-ended stuff, you'll like it. And I think if you like almost child psychology, I think you'll like this. I don't know anything about child psychology. I won't even pretend to. But if someone told me like they were a student and learning about child psychology and they picked this book to write a paper on, I would not be surprised. The little girls have lost their mother, their father is working all summer, they have to stay with a relative they don't really like, they have trouble getting along with other kids, they kind of act out in certain ways. So as someone who's not really interested in any of that at the moment, I didn't really want to read that. I wasn't a huge fan of reading that. But if someone were really into it, I could see why they would love this book. I'm not sure how a child would like it. I don't really know. It was still interesting. It was still a good story. It was cute. I just don't know how relatable it would be for children, actual children. A lot of people love this book though, so there's that. There's a nice balance between fantasy and realism. And really, the open-endedness of the ending, it could go either way. It could go full fantasy, it could go straight into realism. So there's that. This one is a little disappointing. I kind of wish I hadn't started with it, but oh well. So the second book that I picked was The Silver Crown by Robert C. O'Brien. He's also the guy who wrote The Secrets of NIMH, and I remember loving that movie, so there's that. I remembered that this book was super scary. I had a really hard time reading it as a kid, and I stand by that. I didn't remember much else of it. I knew there was a crown and the girl was homeless, and for some reason I remember jelly donuts. They are there. Jelly donuts are there at the end. I'm not crazy. I just don't know why I remember that. This book is about a little girl named Ellen who receives a mysterious silver crown on her 11th birthday and a horrible tragedy. Her house does burn down and she thinks her family is dead. And she does try to go to the authorities, but some things happen that are very mysterious that leads her to trying to find her aunt who lives in Tennessee, I think, or Kentucky, one of those states. And I'm not really sure where she's from initially. It's a really long journey, but she thinks she can get there in a car in like a day or two. So I'm not really sure where that puts her, but she's on this journey to try to find her aunt, Sarah, and she runs into some very mysterious, shady characters. People are chasing her. And she winds up in the woods. She makes friends with another little boy and a raven or a crow or something. They find a very mysterious black castle that is trying to essentially mind control everyone. And it's up to Ellen to figure out what's going on there and defeat it with the help of her mysterious silver crown. I give this book now 3.5 stars. I really liked it, but it was super scary. Even now as an adult, like at the beginning, her house burns down, and that's awful. And like she's stranded by herself, and at first no one will believe that she lived there. And like I can't even imagine that. That sounds terrifying to me. And then like she witnesses like a horrible crime, and it's just awful, and I don't understand how that's not a bigger part of the book, because it's awful and it's scary. And then people are chasing her and she's alone and she doesn't really know where she's going. Oh my goodness. Like, I still think this book is terrifying. I do not recommend it for really young children. I think without the fantasy, it's like an almost fantasy sci-fi element, and without that, this could just be a thriller. Like, it starts out where without the crown, I would just be like, this is a thriller. This is a little girl running for her life, and people are chasing her, and it's terrifying. Later on, when she gets to the castle and such, there is more of a fantasy element to it, and that ends up being really cool. I wish it was more developed. There were a few parts that kind of seemed like they were left off, and there wasn't enough detail added to them. The imagery is fantastic. For the most part, the detail is really good. There are just a few parts of it that I wish were fleshed out more. She meets a friendly man in the woods. That sounds awful. She meets a friendly man in the woods who helps her, and I kind of wish he'd had a bigger role. He kind of just does the one thing, and it makes you think that he's going to come back and stuff is going to be important about him, but it's kind of not. I wish that wasn't the case. The castle itself, the whole like villainous stuff, I wish there was a little bit more about that. It kind of seems like they just glossed over that and then that's it. So I wish there was a little more there, but the fantasy aspect is really cool. It's like almost sci-fi, so if you like that mix between fantasy and sci-fi, I think you'll really like this. I think if you have like kids that like sci-fi and fantasy, they'll like this, but I do think the beginning is scary. Maybe that's just me, maybe I'm just a chicken or something, but I think it's pretty scary. When I was a kid, I had a really hard time reading this book, and I know why I did. It's kind of awful because I was trying to imagine myself as Ellen, and I was like terrified. I would have no idea what to do if my house burned down and men were chasing me and I didn't know why. I don't know. I think it's a good book still. I just think that maybe keep it away from really young children. It's not as good for that kind of audience, but as an adult, I did like it. I didn't think any of the characters were particularly annoying, which is something that I struggle with YA. Like, I know I said in my intro video not too long ago that I don't like YA, and then now this entire month has just been YA, but I like this one. I think it's alright, 3.5 stars. It's pretty well done. It's just scary and not as fleshed out as I like. So other than that, I did like this one. Okay, and the last one I'm going to talk about today is The Two Princesses of Bamare by Gail Carson Levine. This book I remembered really enjoying. I remember trying to figure out which princess I was most like, and the fantasy element of it. That's pretty accurate. I would give this book now 3.5 stars. It's about two princesses that are stark opposites. Princess Addie is timid and shy and afraid of basically everything, and she's really good at embroidery, but she just kind of wants to do that all day and not be outside very much. Princess Meryl is the exact opposite. She's super brave. She is just waiting to get out of the castle, to have her own adventures, just like her favorite story character, Dralt. She wants to fight dragons and griffins and specters and all kinds of things, and ogres, and she just wants to have an adventure, and she's like ready to go, and she can't sit still in the castle. Unfortunately, tragedy befalls the kingdom of Bamar, and it's up to Princess Addie to go on this big adventure to save everyone. And she really has to learn how to be on her own and survive, and how to be brave. And I don't really want to say much more because it's just a really fun adventure. It kind of reads like a really simplified epic. I really liked this one. It's a really nice fantasy story. I really recommend it for people who love fantasy and for sisters. I think it would be a really fun book for sisters to read together, because a lot of it's about that really strong sister bond, and I like that. It's cute. If you don't like YA, you're not going to like this book. If you don't like books about kids or fantasy, you won't like it, so just skip that one. But I thought it was really good. I think the characters are really well done. It would have been super, super easy for the author to make all of the characters really annoying, particularly Addie. It would have been super easy for her to not learn anything, or for a bunch of coincidences to help her save the day, and it would have been super easy to write her out of character and just have her like flip a switch and suddenly she has, the strength of 10 men and, bravery against all odds. But she doesn't. She kind of goes throughout the story still scared of basically everything, and she's really struggling, but she makes it work. And some of it's through coincidence, some of it is through her own willpower, and she seems like she actually learns some things, and I really like that. I think her development is well done, especially for YA. You don't see that a lot. Sometimes you see people trying to cut corners, and I think it's really well done. The only thing that's kind of not as great about this is that it's kind of cheesy, and it's pretty predictable, so there's that. But I think it's well done overall. It's about how she gets there. It's the journey, not the destination. So I think that's really well done. I liked the characters. I liked the storyline and the plot for the most part. The ending, I think, was a little over the top cheesy. I think it could have been a little different. There's just parts of it that make me want to roll my eyes, but it's still cute. I still think young girls would like it a lot. I think it would be a great book for sisters. I might force my little sister to read it just for fun. She hates reading, but whatever. And I liked it. Overall, I liked it. I thought it was a cute story with decent characters, and I think the pacing is well done as well. It could have very easily gone too slowly or too fast, but I think it's pretty well done. I think it's paced out nicely, especially with the different things she has to do. It's just short enough to where you aren't reading, you know, like a Lord of the Rings style adventure, but it's not so short that you're not feeling like you're reading enough, you know. It's just enough, and I really liked it, and I think there's just amount enough of tasks that she has to accomplish, and I think it's well done. The only issue that I have is the cheesiness. The ending is pretty cheesy. I would change that personally, but otherwise I liked it. I think other kids would like it, and I know why I liked it so much as a kid too, and why this was a popular book when I was a kid. So I think overall this project is going well for the first three. So stay tuned, I guess, for the last three. I think two of them are series, so stay tuned for the last three selections, and I will see you next time or something.